Now, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana will deliver his maiden medium-term budget policy statement this afternoon. Godongwana has been in office for about 4 months now and will be expected to stamp his authority on the country's fiscal policy direction and give an update on South Africa's economic recovery efforts. Our business editor, Xolani Mbanjwa, is in Parliament and joins us now. Xolani, a very good morning to you. Some important elements that need to be taken into consideration ahead of this budget speech. We've been listening to voices on the ground speaking a lot in the streets of Soweto, for instance, a short while ago, to the basic income grant, that necessity of it, and they're calling for it to be increased and also urging government not to have it scrapped because it means so much to the people who receive it every month. Let's talk about some of the focal areas and some concerns ahead of this budget speech.
Well, good morning, and it's really an important one when it comes to the people that we have been engaging with, the MPs that we have been engaging with, this issue of extending that social relief grant of 350 rands and the debate around the basic income grant. Can South Africa afford it? And can South Africa, if it can afford it, really not break the bank when it comes to this particular grant being an issue to the fiscus? But we haven't spoken to economists here in Parliament as yet, and we are now joined by Patrick Buthelezi, who is an economist with Sanlam Investments, to get his views about the view from the economic side of things with regards to, what are you expecting, Patrick, when it comes to this maiden, midterm budget speech by the Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana. Some certainty, clear certainty is needed because policy uncertainty, whether on mining, whether on land, is a huge issue for the market.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me here today. I think Finance Minister is sitting in a better position than a former finance minister because we have revenue overrun of over 130 billion that we are expecting. So what it means is he can be able to run a lower budget, a deficit. But what is important in this budget is for Finance Minister to demonstrate that he is able to hold the line on expenditure. So we expect Finance Minister to demonstrate the commitment to fiscal consolidation. That is to make sure that we are able to stabilize government debt because government debt at the moment remains very high. And when it comes to supporting the unemployed, we believe that in South Africa we have a responsibility. There are so many people who are unemployed, especially this year. We saw the numbers shooting up because of the restrictions that were implemented to try and contain the spread of the virus. So I think there is a need to protect those who are unemployed, but I believe that it should be the short-term plan. I think over time, I think government must deploy resources to make sure that the economy grows because that is the solution. What can one do with 135 rands per month? That is not enough. There's no dignity in that. I think what is important is for a finance minister to demonstrate that within expenditure mix, government is shifting towards investment in terms of instead of spending on consumption, because that is what will drive economic growth over time. Because the big problem South Africa have is economic growth. The economy hasn't been growing now for a number of years, and if the economy is not growing, unfortunately this problem will not be resolved. Even now this year we may see government debt maybe coming down just a little bit, but over time we'll see government debt continuing to go up because there is no growth. So what we expect from Finance Minister is to give the general public assurance and certainty that what is constraining growth, something is being done to ensure that it is all the constraints are removed.
Patrick, can South Africa really afford a basic income grant as it has been envisaged in various quarters? There's talks that are still going to be taking place. Can South Africa afford it? Yes, we need it, but can we afford it?
No, the affordability, we can't afford it. We can't afford it. Government debt is very high. We cannot afford it as a permanent, as a permanent feature of government expenditure. But temporarily, we can provide a relief temporarily, but it's not something that we can have it every year. That becomes a permanent feature of government expenditure. But in the short term, I think there is a need to provide some support, but it's not affordable in the long term.
Patrick Buthelezi, economist at Sanlam Investments. You heard him there saying that government cannot afford it, but we need to do something right now, maybe on a temporary basis, because the South African households that are most vulnerable are getting deeper and deeper into that desperate state that has been exacerbated by the COVID-19 lockdowns and the recent unrest that we saw in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng.
Very well, let's leave it there for now. Xolani Mbanjwa outside Parliament there ahead of Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's mid-term policy statement this afternoon at 2 o'clock.